Additionally, small horns started growing on the baby's forehead, a sight that filled the palace with fear and concern. Once upon a time, in the kingdom of Ezago, in the eastern part of Nigeria, there was a very big and rich kingdom. The people of Ezago were known for their rich cultural traditions, hardworking young men, and beautiful young ladies. They were also very industrious. Among the people of Ezago, there lived a young man named Prince Ikogo. He was the son of King Ozo and Queen Obidia, making him a prince. However, despite his royal status, Prince Ikogo had a very haughty demeanor. He looked down on others and treated them with disrespect, thinking he was better than everyone else in the kingdom. This made many people dislike him so much. King Ozo and Queen Obidia were very concerned about their son's behavior. They often called him and tried to talk to him about being respectful and kind to others. But no matter how much they tried, Prince Ikogo continued with his bad manners. One day, Prince Ikogo saw a young girl from their community whom he found very attractive. He approached her and asked if she would like to be his girlfriend. However, to his surprise, the young girl turned him down. She was scared of being with someone who treated others with disrespect and disregard. This rejection shocked Prince Ikogo. He couldn't understand why the girl would refuse him. A prince and a member of the royal family, he felt even more frustrated and angry. But deep down, he knew that his behavior was the reason why people didn't want to be close to him. From that day on, Prince Ikogo started to reflect on his actions. He realized that being a prince didn't make him better than others. He understood that respect and kindness were more important than his royal status. Prince Ikogo decided to change his ways and become a better person. Days passed, and Prince Ikogo, determined to change for the better, found himself drawn to Oledo, the young girl he had fallen in love with. He visited her father's house, where Oledo was surprised but also pleased to see the prince behaving calmly and respectfully. Ikogo expressed his love for Oledo and his sincere desire to spend his life with her. He promised her that he had good intentions and wished to change for her sake. Oledo, touched by Ikogo's sincerity, asked him to give her time to think about his proposal. But she also made him promise to change his disrespectful ways towards others. Ikogo agreed wholeheartedly, and they smiled at each other before he left. As Prince Ikogo made his way back to the palace with his guards, a little child with one eye crossed his path. The child, innocently drawn to the prince, ran towards him. However, before the child's mother could reach them, Ikogo, in a fit of anger, pushed the child away and insulted the mother so much. He told her she was unfit to care for a child, mocked her for begging despite having children, and even laughed at the child's appearance. His words deeply hurt the woman, and she cried bitterly. In her pain and anger, she cursed Prince Ikogo, saying that his first child would bring him endless tears and sorrow, that he would never be able to describe the child's appearance, and that he would cry over his own child every day. Despite the guards feeling saddened by the prince's action, Ikogo dismissed the woman and her child callously, believing the cause could never affect him. The woman, holding her child and still crying, left the prince's sight. After Prince Ikogo's encounter with the woman and her child, he felt a profound change within himself. Although Oledo was unaware of this incident, she noticed a difference in the prince's behavior. One day, Prince Ikogo summoned his parents, King Ozo and Queen Obidia, to his chambers. They were surprised by their son's serious tone and were eager to hear what he had to say. Ikogo, with sincerity in his eyes, asked for forgiveness for his past behavior. "I'm sorry, father and mother, for the way I've behaved all these years. I realized now that I am wrong and I want to change," Ikogu said with humility. King Ozo and Queen Obidia were astonished and pleased by their son's words. They hugged him tightly and expressed their happiness at seeing this change in him. "You have indeed grown, my son," King Ozo said proudly. "It seems it's time for you to find a wife and give us grandchildren." They all laughed joyfully, and Ikogu promised his parents that he would make them proud. He even went a step forward and decided to apologize to everyone he had treated badly in the past. He gathered all the palace maids and guards and presented them with gifts as a symbol of his apology and gratitude. "I'm truly sorry for my past actions. I promise to be a better person. I promise to be a good prince and a better person from now on," Ikogo said earnestly. The maids and guards were touched by his sincerity and forgave him wholeheartedly. They were happy to see the prince transforming into a kind and respectful person. From that day onward, Prince Ikogo lived up to his promise. He treated everyone with kindness and respect, and his parents were proud of the change they saw in him. They prayed every day that their son would remain this way for the rest of his life. As days turned into weeks and weeks into months, Prince Ikogo and Oledo's love blossomed. They spent a lot of time together, and their love story became the talk of the town in their community. Many young people admired their relationship and wished for something similar. One beautiful day, as Prince Ikogo and Oledo sat in the palace garden, surrounded by blooming flowers, the prince turned to Oledo with a sparkle in his eyes. "Oledo, my love," he said, taking her hand gently, "will you be my wife?" Oledo's eyes widened with excitement, and she nodded eagerly. "Yes, Ikogo, I will be your wife," she replied with a bright smile. Overjoyed, Prince Ikogo promised Oledo that he would come with his parents to meet his family and discuss their marriage plans. He then presented her with a beautiful gold ring as a symbol of their engagement. Oledo hugged him tightly, feeling immense happiness in her heart. When Prince Ikogo returned to the palace, he shared the news of their engagement with his parents, King Ozo and Queen Obidia. The king and queen were thrilled and proud of their son. They immediately reached out to Oledo's family to arrange a meeting and set a date for the introduction ceremony. After the introduction day, where both families came together in joy and celebration, the traditional marriage date was fixed. The occasion was planned in grand style, with dignitaries from different places attending to witness the union of Prince Ikogo and Oledo. On the wedding day, the palace was adorned with colorful decorations. The air was filled with excitement and happiness as people eagerly awaited the union of the royal couple. Prince Ikogo and Oledo looked so beautiful in their traditional attire as they stood before the elders and exchanged vows of love and commitment. "By the powers vested in me, I now pronounce you husband and wife," the elder announced, as cheers and applause filled the air. Prince Ikogo and Oledo embraced each other, feeling overwhelmed with love and joy. They were now officially married, and their future together seemed bright and promising. After Prince Ikogo's joyous wedding with Oledo, the royal family and the kingdom were filled with happiness. However, their joy was soon overshadowed by a great sorrow. King Ozo, Prince Ikogo's father, fell seriously ill. Despite the efforts of the best healers and medicine, the king's condition worsened and he eventually passed away. The royal family was heartbroken and the entire kingdom mourned the loss of their beloved king. After the king's burial, the royal seat remained empty and discussions began among the kingmakers and elders of the kingdom. It was decided that it was time to crown Prince Ikogo as the next king of Ezago Kingdom. As preparations for the coronation began, there was another piece of joyful news. Oledo, Prince Ikogo's wife, was discovered to be pregnant. This brought immense joy to the royal household, bringing a ray of hope and happiness during a time of mourning. Weeks after the king's passing, the coronation day arrived. The kingdom was adorned with colorful decorations, and people from far and wide gathered to witness the crowning of their new king. Prince Ikogo, now King Ikogo, stood tall and proud as he took on the responsibilities of ruling the kingdom. The coronation ceremony was filled with cheers and celebrations. The people of Ezago rejoiced in their new king, and there was a sense of hope and optimism in the air. Queen Obidia, King Ikogo's mother, stood by her son throughout the ceremony. She had always been a pillar of support for him, and now, as he ascended the throne, her pride and her love for him knew no bounds. Queen Obidia also took special care of Oledo during her pregnancy. She showered her with love and blessings, always praying for her well-being and the safe delivery of her child. 9 months after, Oledo gave birth to a handsome baby boy. The palace was filled with joy and happiness. King Ikogo and Queen Obidia felt blessed and thankful for the new addition to their family. They named the baby Prince Ozo after his late grandfather, King Ozo, and celebrated his arrival with great delight. As time went on, the baby prince named Ozo grew and thrived. His laughter filled the palace halls, bringing joy to everyone around. King Ikogo felt a deep sense of fulfillment in his life, grateful for the blessings bestowed upon his household. Queen Obidia, watching her son and grandson with pride, often mentioned how proud King Ozo, her husband, would have been of King Ikogo. This brought a smile to King Ikogo's face, knowing that his father's spirit would be pleased with their family's happiness. However, after about a month of Ozo's birth, something strange and unsettling began to happen. The baby prince's skin started changing color, taking on a shade different from other babies. This news shocked and frightened everyone in the palace. Additionally, small horns started growing on the baby's forehead, a sight that filled the palace with fear and concern. Queen Oledo was devastated and couldn't understand what was happening to her son. King Ikogo, despite trying to stay strong, was deeply saddened and worried about how the villagers would react and treat their son. Queen Obidia, witnessing her son and daughter-in-law's distress, prayed fervently for divine intervention. She hoped that God would guide them through this mysterious and troubling situation. King Ikogo's heart was heavy with worry and conflicting emotions. On one hand, he loved his son, Ozo, dearly. On the other hand, he feared the judgment and ridicule of society if they were to discover the truth about Ozo's cursed condition. This internal struggle tormented the king day and night. despite their efforts to seek help from the village elders and find a solution. The curse on Ozo seemed unyielding. His horns continued to grow, and his skin remained different from others. The king and queen, along with Queen Obidia, decided to keep Ozo hidden from the public eye, fearing the repercussions of the curse. They transformed a secluded part of the palace in a private area for Ozo, away from prying eyes. Only a few trusted servants were allowed to interact with him, and they were sworn to secrecy. Queen Oledo spent hours researching ancient texts and consulting healers and mystics, hoping to find a remedy for Ozo's condition. She would often sit by Ozo's side, comforting him and assuring him of their love, even as tears welled up in her eyes. One day, as King Ikogo walked through the palace corridors, his mind filled with worry, he overheard whispers among the palace staff about Ozo's strange appearance. Fear gripped his heart, and he realized the danger of their secret being exposed. "We must be even more cautious," King Ikogo said to Queen Oledo later that evening. "The rumors are spreading, and we cannot risk Ozo's safety." Queen Oledo nodded, her eyes reflecting the same concern. "We will do whatever it takes to protect our son," she replied, her voice determined. Despite their best efforts, the news of Ozo's condition started to spread beyond the palace walls. Whispers and gossip reached the ears of the villagers, fueling curiosity and fear. King Ikogo felt torn between his duty as a father to protect his child and his responsibilities as a ruler to maintain order and respect in the kingdom. It was a constant battle of emotions and decisions. So as time goes on and the villagers was now aware of the prince's appearance, the royal family decided not to hide it anymore, but just focus on finding solutions. As Ozo, the baby prince with growing horns, grew older, his parents, King Ikogo and Queen Oledo, along with Queen Obidia, his grandmother, became increasingly concerned about his peculiar appearance. Despite Ozo's remarkable intelligence and reasoning abilities, his physical features made him the target of ridicule from the villagers. Wherever Ozo went, he faced taunts and jeers from other children. They would laugh at his horns, dark skin, and stunted stature, making him feel different and lonely. Each time Ozo returned home in tears, his parents' heart broke a little more. Unable to bear seeing their son suffer, Queen Oledo and King Ikogo decided that enough was enough. They couldn't stand by and watch their child endure such cruelty. Determined to find solution, Queen Oledo and her husband King Ikogo alongside his mother Obidia spent countless sleepless nights searching for a solution to Ozo's unusual appearance and his underlying sickness. One evening, as the sun set over the kingdom of Ezago, Queen Oledo sat down with King Ikogo and Queen Obidia to discuss their next steps. "We can't let Ozo continue to suffer like this," Queen Oledo said with determination in her voice. "We must seek guidance from the village elders. Perhaps they can shed light on this mystery and help us find a cure." King Ikogo nodded in agreement. "Yes, we must do everything we can to help our son," he replied, his eyes reflecting both worry and hope. Queen Obidia, with a heavy heart, added, "I pray that the elders have wisdom and knowledge to guide us in finding a solution for Ozo." And so, the royal family resolved to seek help from the village elders. They hoped that with their combined efforts and the wisdom of the elders, that they could unravel the mystery behind Ozor's growing horns and find a way to ease his suffering. As the night deepened, anticipation and hope filled the palace as they awaited the dawn of a new day and the beginning of their quest for answers. King Ikogo sat on the throne troubled by the cause that had befallen his son, Prince Ozor. He could only see the fear and concern in the eyes of his people whenever they looked at the young prince with his changing color and growing horns. Determined to break the curse, the king sought the counsel from the wisest elders and the most powerful chief priests in the kingdom. I must find a way to save my son, the king whispered to himself as he paced back and forth in his chambers that midnight. Early the next morning, the elders gathered around the king, their faces lined with age and wisdom. They spoke of ancient rituals and powerful incantations that might reverse the curse. However, each solution seemed more daunting than the last, and the king's desperation grew with each passing day. One night, a seer visited the palace. She was known far and wide for her ability to see things in the past and unravel hidden truths. The king eagerly sought her advice, hoping she would reveal the key to breaking the curse. Your Majesty, the seer began, her voice carrying a weight of solemnity. You must ponder on your past actions. There may be a deed undone or a wrong unrighted that has brought this curse upon your son. The king furrowed his brow, trying to recall any misdeed from his youth. But as the days passed, he couldn't pinpoint anything specific he had done wrong. Feeling lost and hopeless, the king turned to the chief priest for guidance. The chief priest, a vulnerable figure with a deep understanding of ancient law, suggested a journey to the village oracle. The oracle holds the answers you seek, the chief priest proclaimed. Only there can the true cause of your son's plight be revealed. With hope rekindled in his heart, King Ikogo set out for the village oracle, accompanied by some trusted advisors and elders, alongside his guards. The journey was long and arduous, but the king was driven by the love for his son and the desire to undo the curse that had befallen him. Upon reaching the village oracle, the king was greeted by the sight of a sacred grove, surrounded by ancient trees and shrouded in an aura of mysticism. The chief priest of the oracle emerged, a solemn expression on his face. Welcome, King Ikogo, the chief priest intoned. You seek answers, and the oracle shall provide. The king was led into the heart of the grove, where mystical symbols adorned the ground. The air was thick with incense and ancient magic. The chief priest performed rituals of purifications and invocation, calling upon the spirits of the ancestors for guidance. As the rituals reached their climax, the king felt a sense of anticipation and trepidation. The chief priest approached him, his eyes glinting with otherworldly knowledge. The cause that plagues your son, the chief priest spoke in a voice that seemed to echo with the whispers of the past, is rooted in the deeds of your youth. There is a forgotten transgression, a promise unkept that has brought this upon you. There is a woman whom you wronged so much, and she cursed you. She is the one after you, and you have to go and look for her. The king's heart sank as he realized the gravity of his past actions. He had been young and reckless, heedless of the consequences of his words and deeds. Now, those actions had come back to haunt him in form of his cursed son. "Tell me, wise one," the king implored, "what must I do to right this wrong and save my son?" The chief priest's gaze softened, filled with compassion for the king's plight. "You must seek forgiveness," the chief priest declared. "Find those whom you have wronged in your youth and make amends. Only then can the curse be lifted." With a heavy yet determined heart, King Ikeogo vowed to undo the mistakes of his past. The journey towards redemption had just begun, and the king knew it would be a long and challenging road. But for the sake of his son, he would face any trial and overcome any obstacles. After the king left the oracle and went back to the palace, he couldn't sleep that night but prayed and hoped that he would find that woman so that his son Prince Ozo would be fine again. So the following morning, the king set out on a journey across the kingdom, searching for any clue that would lead him to the woman and her son. He asked the villagers and the travelers if they knew of anyone matching their description, but no one could provide any helpful information. Meanwhile, King Ikeogo was determined, and he searched tirelessly for this woman. He went from village to village, asking anyone he met if they had seen or heard of the woman with whose son had one eye. But his efforts yielded no results. Days turned into weeks, and still the king was no closer to finding the woman who held the key to his redemption. The king felt a growing sense of frustration and worry, fearing that they might never find her and make amends for the pain he had endured because of the curse. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, a visitor arrived at the palace gate. It was one of the guards who had resigned from his duties at the palace some time ago. The guard had traveled far and wide, seeking a new path in life, but he still held fond memories of his time serving the royal family. The guard approached the queen Obidia and her son Ikeogo, bowing respectfully before speaking. "Your Majesty," he began, "Your Highness, I overheard you're in search for the woman who caused King Ikeogo. I believe I know where she lives." Hope flickered in the king's eyes as he asked eagerly, "Tell us, good friend, where can we find her?" The guard described a small village nestled in outskirts of the kingdom, where the woman and her son had taken refuge after the event that transpired years ago. He provided detailed directions, and without hesitation, the king and his mother, alongside his wife Obidia, set out at first light to find the woman and seek her forgiveness. The journey was long and arduous, but the king and his mother, alongside his wife Oledo, were fueled by the hope of reconciliation. Finally, they arrived at the humble abode of the woman and her son. The king knocked gently on the door, his heart pounding with anticipation. The king stood before the woman who had cursed him, his heart heavy with regret and longing for forgiveness. The woman, once filled with anger and resentment, now looked upon the king with a mixture of hesitation and doubt. She had suffered greatly because of the curse, but deep down, she knew that holding on to anger would only bring more pain. "Please," the king pleaded, his voice filled with sincerity, "I beg for your forgiveness. Let us end this cycle of suffering and find peace." The woman's eyes glistened with unshed tears as she wrestled with her emotions. Her son, A bright and perceptive boy of 6 emerged from the room and ran to the king, hugging him tightly. The king's heart swelled with warmth as he embraced the child, his smile genuine and filled with compassion. The woman watched this exchange, her heart softened at the sight of her son showing such affection to the man she once despised. She realized that the prince had changed, that he was no longer the arrogant and disrespectful young man he was once. Tears streamed down the woman's cheeks as she stepped forward, her voice choked with emotion. "I forgive you," she whispered, her words carrying the weight of years of pain and resentment. The king and the woman embraced, their arms wrapping around each other in a gesture of forgiveness and reconciliation. In that moment, the curse that had plagued the kingdom for so long began to unravel. As if in response to the newfound harmony, the cursed child, Prince Ozo, felt a strange sensation wash over him. His horns, symbols of the curse that had tormented him, began to vanish, leaving behind smooth and radiant skin. The joyous news spread like wildfire throughout the kingdom, and soon the streets were filled with celebratory music and dancing. The people rejoiced in the king's redemption and the end of the curse that had cast a shadow over their lives. Amidst the festivities, King Ikogo stood with a renewed sense of purpose and humility. He vowed to rule his kingdom with wisdom and compassion, learning from the lessons of the past and striving to create a better future for his people. Years passed, and the tale of King Ikogo's journey from arrogance to humility became a cherished legend in the kingdom of Ezago. Children gathered around storytellers, eager to hear the story of the cursed prince with horns and the king who defied destiny to bring about redemption. The king's legacy was not just in breaking the curse that had plagued his family, but in the lessons he learned along the way. His story taught future rulers the importance of humility and empathy, reminding them that true strength lay in compassion and understanding. As time went by, King Ikogo continued his efforts to mend the wounds of his past. He reached out to those he had wronged in his youth, seeking to make amends and heal old grievances. Each act of reconciliation added to the king's legacy, reinforcing the message that forgiveness and redemption were possible for all. Under King Ikogo's enlightened rule, the kingdom of Ezago underwent a remarkable transformation. The scars of the past conflicts were healed, and a newfound spirit of unity and cooperation emerged among the people. The kingdom became a beacon of peace and prosperity in the land, drawing admiration from neighboring realms. The king's legacy was not built on grandiose deeds or conquests, but on his courage and compassion in the face of adversity. He was remembered not for his past arrogance and pride, but for the humility and empathy that defined his reign. One day, as the king sat under the shade of a majestic tree, surrounded by his people, a young child approached him with wide eyes filled with curiosity. "Tell me, my king," the child asked, "how did you break the curse and bring peace to our kingdom?" The king smiled warmly at the child, his eyes reflecting the wisdom of years lived and lessons learned. "It was not through magic or might," the king replied, "but through the power of forgiveness and understanding. I learned that true strength comes from compassion and humility, and it is these qualities that guide me still." The child nodded, absorbing the king's words with reverence. And so, the legacy of King Ikogu lived on, a testament to the enduring power of courage and compassion, and the willingness to seek redemption. The most important lesson in this story is that forgiveness, understanding, and compassion have the power to break curses, heal old wounds, and bring peace and happiness to everyone, showing that no matter what mistakes we may have made in the past, we can always strive to make amends, grow, and create a better future together. And with this, my dear friends, our story comes to a close. But remember, the magic of storytelling lives on, waiting to whisk us away on new adventures, where the wonders of imagination know no bounds. Goodbye for now, and may your dreams be filled with joy, wonder, and endless possibility. Thank you so much for watching. Please kindly comment, share, like, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more interesting stories.